Hi, this is Ms. Rosenthal. We're going to go over the notes for section 2B, how to find the missing side of a right triangle. But first, a question. Did you hear about the mathematician who's afraid of negative numbers? He will stop at nothing to avoid them. How about this one? What do you call a man who spent all summer at the beach? A tangent. All right, well, how do we do this? How do we solve for a missing side if we can use trig? So we're going to go through two examples, then we're going to stop the video and you're going to do a couple, and then we'll come back and see how you did. So the first example. The first step that we want to do is to take a look at what parts we have. So we have this angle that's 25 degrees. Now, the first thing we're going to do is find the hypotenuse and label it with an H, the opposite leg and label it with an O, and the adjacent leg label with an A. Once I've done that, I can look at my trig ratios. Just write this up here. You should have this at the top of your paper probably. And based on what we have with this angle, we have a number at the hypotenuse, and we have a variable at the opposite. So the opposite and hypotenuse, we're going to use sine. So I write my equation, sine, then the angle, equals the fraction opposite, which was an x, over hypotenuse, which was a 41. Once you've done this, then life will be easy. Okay, but let me show you. So this is just an equation that we need to solve for x. We need to find the replacement for sine of 25, either using our calculator or the trig chart. When you look that up, you get 0.4226. So I'm just replacing this with its decimal partner, equals x over 41. Okay, so if I put this over 1, now I'm just going to cross multiply. So x is going to equal 0.4226 times 41. And we're going to round to the nearest tenth every time. So that's going to give me 17.3. Does that answer make sense? That this side would be 17.3? Yeah, it's not going to be longer than the 41. It's going to be somewhere towards the middle. So let's take a look down here first and see what our steps were, and then we'll go through this one. So first we need to identify HOA. Okay, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. So if you need to write those words down, do so. So we identify it then. We decide which trig. Okay, and our options there are sine or cosine or tangent. Next, we're going to set up the equation. Okay, we're going to solve the equation. And we're going to ask ourselves, does the answer make sense? Is it reasonable? Okay, so identify HOA. Use the angle that they are marked for you. Okay, the hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side. Opposite leg, adjacent leg. So you can see here we've got something with the opposite and something with the adjacent. Opposite and adjacent, opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I'm going to use tangent. I'm going to set up my equation. It always goes trig, then the angle, then an equals, and then your fraction. Opposite over adjacent. Okay, it's that same order each time. See what we did here? Sine, angle, equals, fraction. We'll replace the sine of 60 with its tangent. It's 1.732. So again, I'm using either my table or my calculator to find this decimal. Now this gets a little trickier, but this one, if we would cross multiply, we end up with 1.732x equals 4. Okay, cross this way and cross this way. Then I'm going to divide by 1.732. So x is going to be about, and again, we're going to round to the nearest tenth, 2.3. Now that's a lot of work, so we can simplify this. Look at what we had up here. We had a 4 over x, and we ended up taking the 4 divided by this decimal, which basically was 4 divided by tan of 60. So if I go back up here, there's kind of a shortcut. I can recognize that x is on the bottom, so it's a divide problem. To solve this, once I've got this written, to solve it, all I have to do is punch in 4, then divide, tan 60 equals. Okay, if I punch it in that order, then I will get 2.3. So basically, we're kind of shortcutting the solving. And then using our calculator for those. Okay, if I go back up here, x is on the top, that's a multiply. So I'm going to take this number 41 times sine 25. And when I do that, I get 17.3. So these are kind of the shortcuts. If x is on the top, I'm going to multiply. If x is on the bottom, I'm going to divide. Okay, stop the video now and we'll come back in part 2 with the answers for your second page of notes.